I'll start. This is Alan Chosa with Kira, Vice Chair of CPOT. And I have no comments.
Tim Thurman, indoor cultivation system, and draft conflict.
Stephanie New, formerly of Oregon Finance. No conflict of interest.
Owner Green State of Mind, no new conflict.
John Mosley, 570 Farms, walking conflict.
Is that everyone on the call?
Dr. Nicole Bowles, OHSU, no conflicts.
Okay.
Michael Montoya, Strategy, Innovation, and Performance Manager, Civic Life.
Arania Brown, Admin Coordinator for the City of Portland's Cannabis Program.
And Kimie Ueoka, Policy Coordinator for the City of Portland Cannabis Program. Al, do you happen to have an agenda in front of you?
Yep, I do.
Okay, great.
I think next thing, do we have quorum?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 6. Yes, we do.
We do have quorum.
You do have quorum.
Okay, so then we can go ahead and move forward with looking at the September minutes. Go ahead and take a minute to go ahead and review. If anybody has any changes or comments, speak now or forever hold your peace. Otherwise, we can move forward with approving. So I'll just give you guys a minute here to look through that.
Because this is all done by conference call this time, as you guys approve and you give your ayes or nays or abstaining, please say your name before announcing so that way we can capture that with the audio.
Okay, yeah, we'll do kind of a roll call on it.
Great.
Okay, anybody have any changes, questions, concerns on the September minutes? Sounds like no, so I go ahead and move to approve the September minutes as written. This is Alan Chosa saying aye.
Tim Thurman, aye.
Stephanie New, aye.
Laura Vega, aye.
John Mosley, aye.
Nicole Bowles, aye.
Madeline Martinez
Is now joining.
Great. Welcome, Madeline. We were just looking at the September minutes. Do you have...
Hello? I'll pull them up.
Hi there, Madeline.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
Good.
Good.
Have you, Madeline, have you had a chance to review the September minutes?
I really have just fucking bits and pieces, not the whole thing. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Al just gave the group a moment to review them one more time, and then you would be the final person to provide either an aye or a nay or an abstain.
All right. Now, here I am. Okay, I say aye.
Perfect. Thank you, Madeline.
Thank you.
Okay, so September minutes are approved. And I think from then we just go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, if that's okay with everybody else. we'll go ahead and talk about if the program folks can go ahead and give us an update on the current recruitment. So that we have one or two seats available.
Yes. So we have had the one seat available since Sam Chapman left, and I really appreciate your support and your patience with this whole process. So we did a while back. I had spoken with you guys about what skill sets and perspectives you felt were missing from the group. The primary things that we took away from that conversation were that you guys felt like it was time to bring some representation onto CPOT from potentially outside the cannabis industry, with a focus on somebody who may have a lived experience from the criminal justice system and involved through a cannabis conviction, or somebody who was a medical marijuana patient or had a patient experience, or a veteran. So those were areas that we focused on. Additionally, the Bureau Director added one other area of experience and perspective, and that would be around youth education or programming, or youth services. So we posted the CPOT position, and we had been asked by the Bureau to post that at the same time as they were doing a big kind of push and recruitment for a couple other high-profile advisory groups, and so they wanted to kind of have this bundled announcement of like, look at all these great opportunities. We got pretty decent response. We had 12 applicants this time. What we found in that pool of applicants was there weren't as many applicants who met the perspectives that you were hoping to find from the patient population or somebody who had been criminally justice involved, although there were some strong applicants with youth services background. And so I think I had communicated to you previously that the decision-making process around CPOT membership, the expertise, areas of experience and expertise that are needed are proposed by the CPOT members, as you did, and then the final determination and invitation is extended by the Bureau Director. And so at this point, we have, as a Bureau, extended the application or extended the invitation to one of the applicants from that initial pool, and they are currently confirming with their employer to what level they can be involved, and if they can be involved beyond beyond themselves as an individual, but actually as a representative for the organization that they work for. So I will give you more information soon, but I've also checked in about the additional membership position that is available since Tierra is moving. We've kind of got two options right now. We can go to the pool of applicants who've already gone through the online application process. And I forgot to tell you, we actually did follow-up phone calls with each of the applicants to add another layer of depth to our ability to kind of connect with them and get a sense of why cannabis and why they would like to be involved with CPOT. So we have gone through that whole process with all 12 of those initial applicants. And we're kind of at a point now where with the second position, we are permitted to go back to the applicants from this most recent round because it has not been that long since they applied.
Hey, can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Just to ask that when us as a group who are not speaking, maybe put our phones on mute. There's a lot of background noise, and so I'd like to hear what you're saying. Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to kind of get your input. When we had the original applicant pool for CPOT, I believe we got something like 30-some applicants, which is massive for an advisory body in the city, let me tell you. One of the other things that I noticed when I was reviewing the people who had completed the application process, there was almost no representation. Actually, no, there was no representation from anybody who self-reported that they had been criminal justice involved due to cannabis conviction. And nobody self-reported having themselves or a loved one having had the patient experience or a medical marijuana user experience. So one thing that we had discussed over here was the possibility of extending an invitation to participants of our social equity grant funded projects and programs to participate with CPOT in kind of an internship and leadership development track. And we're trying to think about how we can best support that. But I wanted to float the idea to you guys because that's a real opportunity for us to partner at another level with the organizations that are receiving funding through the Cannabis Social Equity Grant. And because most of them are serving community members who are from communities that have been most impacted by cannabis prohibition, there is a higher likelihood that we are creating an opportunity for some civic engagement and leadership development skills for exactly who we were hoping to get more involved with CPOT. So what do you guys think about that?
This is Al. I am 100% behind that idea. Not only because they're already engaged with civic life and the cannabis program, but again, it gives them just another look behind the curtain as far as what we're trying to do, and give them an opportunity for additional feedback.
Great.
This is Mountain, and I agree with Al on all of those points. It really makes us more involved, makes all of it more intimate, more a little close, say.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only other thing that I want to probably throw out there as consideration for other groups was potentially some of the neighborhood associations or even minority business associations.
Yeah.
Because I know in the first year at CPOT, there were a handful of people from those groups that were part of the original CPOT or MPOT.
Yeah.
This is Tim.
Yeah.
I like the original idea. I think we should reach out to the community association, whatever. You know, they had a couple years in the beginning, a lot of those people. So I like the original idea. Like, you know, bringing somebody in with the recipient of grant funding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely at the top of the list, so for sure.
So I will, I'll do some work on that and try and get that going as soon as possible. And then as soon as I hear back from the individual that the Bureau Director has extended the invitation to, I'll circle back with that person today. I will let you guys know. It's somebody who has experience working with youth who have been involved with the criminal justice system. So there is some background experience and understanding of directly supporting youth who have had marijuana convictions, although this person as an individual has not had that direct life experience themselves. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I just had something just because I was dealing with it earlier. So, has there been any potential leads or outreach to any potential? I know we only have one bank that's working with us currently, but is there any local banks that potentially might want to get on CPOT and also represent that side of things? As far as invitations?
So from the banking system or from?
Yeah, like, I mean, we all know Mass is like the biggest one, right? So
Right.
But they happen to be Polk County, so is there any banks in the city of Portland that have interest in working with cannabis businesses? And would they like a position on the CPOT so we all can start working together in that manner? Because none of us really know what's going to come of this so-called banking bill. Gotcha.
So, I mean, that kind of goes back to one of my other questions of the pool of applicants who applied in this last round were extremely educated, which is fantastic, but also kind of goes to sorry, let me back up. They were all very highly educated, and they were all in some capacity already involved with or tied to the cannabis industry. There are pros and cons for both of those things, but it definitely skewed, the applicant pool skewed pretty heavily towards people with PhDs and law degrees who are already employed by the cannabis industry. And so I didn't know if you guys had any recommendation. It sounds like you may want to add another area of expertise around banking and the financial end of things for if we were to repost.
It was just a thought. I don't know how everybody else feels.
How does everybody else feel?
As far as banking,
It's Mallory, and I think it's a very good idea because we need people from all areas with their expertise, especially in this. I feel like there's so much confusion right now with the banking industry and cannabis. And I just think that's brilliant. I agree with somebody on board that can guide us, so to speak.
Yeah. If we don't end up doing another posting and adding that, I can definitely work on getting somebody who would be interested and willing to come regularly to discuss that area and to kind of play point on keeping the conversation current and the information current for the group. Okay. So I have had a number of appointment times set up with Tiara to talk about her transition away from CPOT and to her new life on the East Coast. But unfortunately, those have both had to be rescheduled at the last minute. So I will circle back with you guys about a definitive transition plan. But think that it makes sense that one of the vice chairs, we don't have a specific protocol in place yet for transitioning the chair role to one of the vice chairs, but since we do have the 2 vice chairs, do you guys want to like Rochambeau or?
I nominate Al.
I said you
Al, I can whoever does it, I can provide as much support as you need in
Got your back, Al.
closing out the
Yeah,
year.
I don't have a problem with it. I just don't.
I'm strapped on time, man.
Yeah,
You and I both, bro.
yeah,
My only thing is too is, you know, obviously I work for one of the larger companies here, and I don't want to ever have anybody construe that I'm trying to steer anything, you know.
sure.
As far as some of the initiatives we're trying to push forward.
Sure.
Other than one of
But
the
I'm-
doctors, it seems like we all have a conflict. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
that's gonna be there no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my understanding is that due to the intentional nature of this advisory group being a type 3 and reporting to SOOC, that you know, the expectation is that you will disclose any potential conflicts of interest for the record, but that we can continue to draft recommendations, and you know, down the road, if there was some possibility that the recommendations would be given directly to council, or you guys would be asked to speak directly to council, then we would take into consideration some of the additional kind of layers of conflict of interest disclosure that would apply to that sort of direct interaction with council.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what I heard was that Al has been nominated, and Al is
Yeah, yeah.
open and willing to
Well, I
step in.
didn't hear anybody second that, though.
This is Stephanie Neal, I second that.
Were you trying to disguise your voice so that you could second it?
Okay. Well, I don't know, is there anything official we need to do, Kenya?
I think you need to do a roll call vote on that so we can make it official.
Can somebody else call for the vote?
Yes, I got it.
Me and myself calling for the vote, you know?
Vice Chair, I'd like to call a vote to move Al into the chair position of CPOT. Alright, so we want to put that out, so are there any other nominees?
If everybody could unmute for a second and just say your name and aye or nay or abstain.
Stephanie Neal.
Laura Vega, aye.
Nicole Bowles, aye.
John Montleon, aye.
Madeline, aye.
All right.
Okay, and obviously I'm gonna have to abstain, right?
Yes.
So.
And Tim?
Don't be modest, Al. Oh, I voted twice already.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like the ayes have it. And congratulations, Al.
All right. Thank you, Al.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Other changes on the horizon. I think most of you have heard this, but if you haven't, Brandon Goldner, the Cannabis Program Supervisor, will be leaving the program in a few weeks. He has an opportunity over at Metro that he's really excited about, and I didn't know if now is a good time. Michael Montoya would like to talk to you guys a little bit about the transition plan for the supervisor position.
Great. Hello. First of all, thank you for your service to the cannabis program. I am new. I think I'm 3 months and a week into my job here, but I have the great.
Hey, welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Have the great privilege of working with the likes of Irene and Kimye and Brandon, who, as Kimye said, most of you know, is going to Metro. I just wanted to give you a quick update. I'm meeting with staff right now to get their assessment of how the program's going, what the pinch points are, and where it is sort of headed, as well as the type of leadership that they're looking for. And I'm taking that all into consideration. I may ask Kimye to reach out to you, one of you or all of you, or have some selection process to serve on a panel for the interviews. But I will be posting the position once I hear from all staff and digest it all. Sometime in the next week or two, probably it'll be 2 weeks from now, I will post the position. It will be a national search, and we're not going to do any major reorganization. That person will then, the announcement will go out for a month. And then we'll review files. So if it is now, that's a month and a half from now. So that's the end of November when that will close, probably, maybe the first week of December. And then we'll do interviews probably in December. And that person hopefully would start in January. It could be delayed because things take time. So it could be starting in February. March, April, May is my onboarding period, partly because I'm 3 months in and I'm just barely getting my head around things. So I'm going to give the new supervisor 3 months to get their head around things before we really focus on sort of much transitioning, tweaking, or refinement. But my job over the next 6 months then will be to keep things stable, to work with the awesome staff that we have, and to continue to work on all the things that we're currently working on, process improvement and solidifying and maturing the program. So any questions about any of that? I just wanted to give you a window into what we're doing on our side to get that supervisor replacement. And I'll also say that if you would rather send me an email, I would happily read an email from any of you, or you can give me a call. Kimye will happily give you my contact information to talk over any ideas you might have about leadership at the level of Brandon and where the program is going, and so on and so forth. So, but for now, maybe just open it up really quickly. I know I'm not on the agenda, but if you had any questions or comments that you wanted to share with the rest of the members and me.
All right.
I don't really have any comments, but I definitely propose that we set up a going away party for him and for all of us. Because he's been an amazing advocate for the industry, for the city, for people impacted by cannabis prohibition. I've known Brandon since day one, and he's been nothing short of just a rock star. So just wanted to put that on record.
Thank you.
I agree.
That being said, I'd like to nominate Al as party director.
I am a amateur DJ.
Oh, perfect. Well, if one of you wants to put something together, I'm sure Brandon would love to be there.
Yeah, we could do it at Northwest Cannabis Club.
The feeling is mutual, I know, for him in this work, and he is hoping to, in his personal time, stay very connected to what you guys are doing and keep involved in the legislation and policy development rolling out at both the city and the state level. So this is not the last you will hear of him, for sure.
I'm curious, would you be interested in sitting on CPOT as kind of a representative for Metro?
He did express interest, floated that idea. I will definitely consider it. I'll check in with Director Ree about it. We'll have to think about conflicts of interest, undue influence, because of course he'd be like very influential. There may be a cooling period that might be appropriate, and then come back after 3 months or so. But yeah, I'm personally not averse to it. I just want to think it through a little bit more and touch base with Director Ree about it.
No, absolutely. Thanks for checking into that.
Yeah.
And that kind of actually leads into the last bullet point on this section of the agenda. We kind of put off, and I apologize, I didn't originally intentionally do this, but I think it's actually worked out fairly well. Asking you to make a decision about the length of your proposed service on CPOT. Now that you have a sense of what the monthly kind of flow is like and the expectations, from here on out, a lot of what you guys will be doing at the meetings is kind of holding us accountable to reporting back out on things from this year's recommendations, as well as helping to develop and engage with community around developing next year's recommendations, and the quarterly reporting that you guys decided upon this year. So those are kind of the things that are part of the expectations of CPOT membership. And so I am requesting that in the next week, you send me an email and let me know which of the options you would like the length of your CPOT membership to be. I believe the options were 2 or 3 years. And so now that you have a sense of what the work is like, and of course, like you've seen, if life happens and you need to step away, then you step away. But we are asking you to kind of declare and determine what your individual membership length will be moving forward. And you can count this first year as as time served. If you could send that to me in an email in the next week, and then I will create a timeline for reminding you as we get up to those points and doing whatever recruitments will be necessary in the year ahead. Okay. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. If you could go to if you have it available, the feedback. This is a really rough draft. It's taken a bit of time to get the notes compiled. We had lots and lots of handwritten notes. From the Cannabis community talks, we had pretty decent turnout at both community talks, and a lot of interest from industry participants, community members, staff, for more of them. I'll be talking to you guys about what that might look like moving forward, if it's something that you wanted to do on a quarterly basis. But they were really interesting, and I thought they were fun and engaging. I think the first one we had probably close to 25, between 25 and 30 people there, and then the second one was closer to 20, 25, something like that. A lot of the feedback that we got from community members really naturally falls into and aligns with the categories that you guys had already identified for areas of focus. And even a lot of the proposed kind of activities or action items align with things that you guys have already identified. So I won't go over the things that are kind of redundant, but a couple of things that came up that you guys had not already discussed or identified in your conversations. Portland Police, and I think those of you who have businesses, you might be able to expand upon this, but Portland Police response or inaction in response to both requests from cannabis businesses and also from community members to deal with things that are supposed to be within their scope of responsibilities came up a couple of times. One cannabis business representative said that he actually received just kind of a flat-out refusal to respond to reporting and requesting police presence in response to theft at their business, and there was kind of a general consensus that Portland Police had been slow to respond or disinterested in responding to cannabis-related incidents. And so I didn't know if that's something that you guys have experienced as business owners or as individuals, but I thought I would highlight that just as something that came up during these community talks that hasn't directly come up in conversation in the group yet.
I'm curious.
I've experienced that as a business owner on both sides of it. Not necessarily that, but I don't think that their non-response or anything was had anything to do with me owning the cannabis business, because they had no idea. You know, we got to respond. We had guys set the fire next to our building and they didn't respond. So I've seen it both ways, but then we've also had them clear our building under a false alarm and an unlocked door one night, you know, so that's my experience with that.
This is Stephanie speaking. Hey, when I was at Oregon Finance, I reported someone trying to break into the front door with a giant knife, and they never responded.
Okay.
That's pretty typical in that area, too, you know, that's where I'm at also.
From the,
I just have a question. Do any of you know in these areas if, when you say it's typical for that area, is this particular to cannabis, or is this any business that would have a similar experience, police wouldn't respond with such a call?
Any like I said, when I had a guy pouring gasoline down the alley next to my building and lighting stuff on fire, they didn't know that it was a cannabis business or not. They just didn't know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm curious, Kanye, from the community talks, was most of that feedback from the general public, or was it from industry folks?
So it was both. It was interesting. So from the community member, general public side, there were community members who lived in close proximity to an illegal cannabis business that they were reporting to our program, they were reporting to OLCC, they were reporting to police. They had some concerns about what appeared to be some criminal activity taking place in relationship to that illegal cannabis business. And they experienced kind of what they found was what they said was a regulatory kind of loophole or an area of regulation that isn't well determined as to like what responsibility falls on whom. And so for them as neighbors, they were working closely or communicating closely with the legal cannabis businesses in the area. And actually it ended up being a great kind of community builder, relationship builder. But for them with those legal businesses, but as far as getting any sort of action in a timely fashion on this known illegal business, they found themselves to be very frustrated and kept having different regulatory agencies kind of go, oh, that's not my area, go talk to so-and-so. And they ended up doing a lot of the legwork to pull those agencies into action. And they were pretty ticked off about that. So
just out of curiosity, what kind of business was it that was running illegally, like a dispensary?
yes.
Oh.
Yeah. And so, it's not something that's happening all that often around town, but it is something that for that neighborhood and the neighbors around that illegal retail business, it was for them it was pretty serious, and that whole experience was very frustrating. So they just want to make sure they came to a number of the neighbors came to one of the cannabis talks to make sure that message was communicated directly to you guys and also to us as a program. So let me think. I think the other pieces of this make a lot of sense and align really well with what you guys have been working on. So with your permission, I would like to take a shot at folding some of these elements in that highlight and create action items in alignment with what you guys have already identified, and send that out to you guys. Are you guys cool with that?
Okay. That'd be great.
Yep.
Okay,
Sounds like a great idea.
great.
Yeah, this is Al. Sounds good.
Okay. I have a surprise agenda item. I'm sorry I didn't put this on here. It's just been like way too close to my face. I didn't even think about putting it on here. Last Wednesday, we presented to council and asked for approval on funding 6 projects in year 2 of the social equity grants. And council approved, granted approval to fund the 6 proposed projects for year 2. So you can find out more information on the Cannabis Tax website, and I will of course send you guys some follow-up information on the projects that have been proposed and approved for year 2 funding. But we are really quickly going to roll into launching the announcement for year 3, and I will keep you guys informed and involved. Things that were funding areas or focus areas that did not receive as much, we didn't receive as many applicants for, and we're going to be working on looking into how to better construct our process to ensure that all those areas receive a sufficient number of applicants. Reentry housing, we ended up, of the 32 applications we received, only 2 provided any sort of services around reentry housing. So that's something that we want to work on. And then Native American community members are the second most impacted community disproportionately impacted community according to the recent possession of controlled substances numbers of arrests and convictions. And we had 0 applicants who specifically served Native American community members in any of those service areas. So those are areas of focus that I will be working on ensuring they do not continue to be invisible to this process and within this process. But I'm excited. Getting approval from council is an awesome milestone for the work, and we can actually start working with them, and I will reach out to them all immediately and invite them to propose or move forward some participants in their programs that might be interested in working with CPOT. Okay. As far as the annual recommendations report, the copy I sent to you is the most current version. I need to know for November, as we talk about agenda planning, you all we had talked about presenting that report to Sook and possibly Winta in November. Do you still want to aim for November, for the November meeting for that presentation, or would you like to do that in December? How are you feeling about where the report is at right now?
This is Stephanie speaking. What about the stakeholder visual aid part? That's the only part that seems to be missing.
Yeah. I keep postponing working on that part because I don't have a very good graphic design skill set. Do any of you want to work on that part?
I'd like to
Is there one? Sorry, this is Nicole speaking. Didn't Dr. Knox say didn't she have one? Because wasn't that kind of built off something she had showed us in that World 14 meeting?
Thanks for the reminder. I will reach out to her. Okay. Aside from the graphic, how are you feeling about the rest of the content?
I think you got all of our notes from our emails back and forth.
Yes.
We updated the sustainability paragraph to make sense.
Yeah, so if you haven't had a chance to read through it, it's totally fine. But if you could, give it another read through, think about it critically. It's not as razzle-dazzle as we were hoping it would be, but given the resources that we had available to us this go-round, I think it's actually in a pretty good spot. I think that it's on par with what some of the other big cities have been creating around their recommendations. But there's always room for improvement, for sure. So if you could commit to giving it another read through in the next week, and then if you want to move forward with presenting that and sharing that with, and discussing, really just having an open discussion with Director Ree at the November meeting, then we can move forward with that. If you want to bump that to December, that is feasible as well. The other option is keep it in November and not have a December meeting at all. That's pretty common for advisory groups as well. So
I guess the one question I had, remind me again what the final deadline for the final report was. I thought it was December.
So it's end of the year, really.
Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking, if we're gonna, if we get the chance to be able to put forth the draft and put it in front of Director V in November, so at least she has time to give us feedback, then that way, by the end of the year, we'll have a good grasp of everything and have everything included in the final report.
Yeah.
Are there consequences for missing the deadline?
No.
Yeah, we gotta keep pushing this forward. I mean, it's
Ideally,
it's a long time coming, so.
December
I
is,
agree with Al completely.
Yeah.
We spent 3 months just getting our feet wet and figuring out what we're gonna do, and formality, and last 6 months kind of talking about it.
Yeah.
Maybe kind of get our noses down and knock this out.
yeah. December is,
Yeah,
I mean, if you guys have a final draft sooner rather than later is better, just because we will quickly, after the new year, go into the budgeting process for the following year. And so having those things to consider and go into further depth of discussion on,
Yep.
giving that extra month of time to do whatever research or further exploration of what could actually be action items coming off of that, going into the next budgeting
Yep.
cycle is really helpful.
Yep. Exactly. I mean, I don't want any more money going out until we have recommendations in front of council.
Yeah,
At least in my opinion. So.
yeah. And just to clarify, the recommendations will go to Sook, and the recommendations will also be shared with Winta, who would ideally be at that discussion and presentation meeting. And then, it would be up to them whether those recommendations moved on in whatever shape or form to council. So, but Director Ree is the intended audience, at least initially.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And this will give us time to also, if we decide to insert some of the items that were brought up during the community talks into this draft.
Okay. So if I'm hearing correctly, just to confirm that the idea right now is to invite Director Ree and Winta to come to the November meeting for an initial presentation and discussion around the draft report and do final tweaking and finaling to the report before December.
Right. And, if we need to, and if everybody's open to it, we could even have another teleconference mid-November prior to the November meeting.
Sure, that would be great.
So.
Okay. Al, would you mind just kind of getting confirmation from everybody, since this is kind of an actionable item for me?
Okay, are you guys good with that? Moving forward with a November meeting and then doing maybe a quick conference call like we're doing today, prior to the CPOT meeting with Director Reed? And we can go ahead and direct Kimmy to go ahead and get that all set up.
Yes, this is Madeline, in my case.
This is Laura, I agree.
Nicole, yes?
This is Stephanie, yes. By 9 o'clock, there we go.
John, yes.
Okay. Great. That sounds like everyone.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Is there anything that anyone else wanted to update us on or bring up in this last few minutes? We have 0 members of the public participating here on our end.
Hey, this is Stephanie speaking.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to ask why City Council is waiting till the spring to have the work group session about the tax allocation. It seems like a big delay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, especially when the audit report came out, earlier this year, and I thought that City Council would already have been discussing this throughout the year, but it sounds like they haven't been.
So
Yeah, I have the same question.
I will find out. I will find out more information about the thinking behind the timeline, and I will circle back with you as soon as I have more info. That actually was the first I had ever heard of it when Commissioner Hardesty mentioned it from the dais. So I was not aware.
I mean, it's good that they're having it. It just seems like we could speed it up a little.
Right, agreed. There's a reason why recommendation 1 is to immediately improve the tax allocation process.
All right, I'll find out what I can. If Winta is able to come to this next meeting, you guys are welcome to ask her yourselves. And
yeah, could you put that invite out to her?
Yes,
as well?
absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's it on our end. Al, you wanna?
Anybody else have any other comments, questions, anything we need to discuss as a group? Otherwise, I'd like to go ahead and call to adjourn. If somebody wants to second.
Now in second.
All right, this is Al. Hi.
Aye.
Aye. Say bye.
I
All right, great. Well, guys, I appreciate the trust in me, and hope to perform as well as I can as the new chair. So, obviously, if there's anything that comes up in the meantime before our next call, feel free to reach out.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Otherwise, yeah.
I forgot to tell you.
We're committed to that time now.
Yeah.
No, seriously, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I know you're busy.
Oh, I know, but this is important work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you all. I forgot to tell you, I'm super excited. I get to go to the Drug Policy Alliance Policy Reform Conference in St. Louis next week. So I will be available by email and phone and whatnot that whole time, but I won't be in the office, so it might take me a little bit to get back to you if you send me any notes.
Cool. We'd love to get a summary of that meeting.
Oh, big time. I will report out to you guys in November, because that's the whole point, is kind of like, we always go to the Denver Symposium, which is fantastic for status quo, but if we're talking about the future of drug policy reform and innovation, then that reform conference is really going to be more geared towards the future.
And I would just remind everybody, if there's anything you want to communicate to me as I prepare for writing up the position announcement, and or if there's anybody that you know in your networks, you can alert them now to be on the lookout for it. And of course, you will be getting the announcement. But please, this week or early next, even 2 bullets, 3 bullets, 1 bullet is better than nothing at all. It doesn't have to be fancy, just any kind of thing. I'd love to see this. I'd love to see this. Here's a challenge I see that we have. Here's what I really love. Whatever. I'm waiting for that. Welcome it from you.
Arania, can you send everyone Michael's contact info?
I will do that.
Thank you.
I will send you Michael's contact information.
Great.
Yes.
Oh, I ended a meeting on time, you guys. It's a miracle. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks you guys.
Thank you
Good
all.
afternoon.
Thank you, Al. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.